You probably missed the best sci-fi anime of the decade, and I can't blame you. There are not many good sci-fi anime, so it can be pretty easy to avoid the new ones, as the bar is fairly low, especially when there are so many other shows constantly coming out. The last few years have been insane for anime. In fact, I would argue the last decade has been pretty crazy. We've received both amazing adaptations and phenomenal original works, but with so many releases constantly, sometimes you're going to miss a hidden gem. In the last few years alone, we've been gifted fantastic fantasy like Frieren, treated to jaw-dropping action and solo leveling, and despite all odds, we returned by death to the world of ReZero not once, but twice. It feels like every genre has seen a resurgence, and amidst the endless sea of copy and paste isekais, anime has had a pretty impressive decade. Despite this, science fiction feels left out, forgotten, and pushed to the wayside for yet another variation of I got caught jerking off and then got sent to a magical world where I'm the goddess's footstool. I believe that sci-fi tends to have a good content problem. It can be hard to write good sci-fi, and it often feels like shows shove time travel and multiverses in as a way to defy rules. But as a result, they end up either making no sense or they're just too difficult to follow. And yes, that does include the Marvel franchise. Don't get me wrong, there have been some good sci-fi anime recently. But whenever they're up against so many amazing releases, it can be easy for them to slip through the cracks. And for a lot of people, Vivy, Fluorite Song did just that. Now, when the show came out, a lot of people were singing praises for it. It was an original piece of work, which means no source material. It was written by the author of ReZero, and the voice acting staff was talented, to say the least. The anime subreddit, different sections of Twitter, and even my anime list were singing praises for the show. But pretty much as soon as it finished, it completely left everybody's memories. Vivy's a show that impacted a lot of people, myself included, but then it fell off a lot of their radars, and I want to put it back on the map for those of you who have not had a chance to watch it yet. I can't blame people for originally not watching Vivy because it's a show that I myself almost skipped. When I originally looked it up, there wasn't much known due to the lack of source material, and the synopsis pretty much said, Robot Girl saves the world by singing. And I personally loved Angel Beats, but this wasn't the kind of show that really appealed to me. But that's where I was wrong. Vivy wasn't just a show about a singing robot. It was a show about a badass time-traveling robot who saves the world and sings. Let me introduce you to Vivy. Slight spoiler warning for the first episode, but I promise this will not ruin your enjoyment. Vivy is the textbook definition of a cold open. Right at the start of the first scene, we see the titular character walking slowly onto stage, preparing to sing. Another AI hypes up the crowd, and just as our main character is about to exit the stage wing, we're taken to a human corpse and greeted with gunfire. What kind of concert is this? A robot kneels down next to a crying human and says, "Yo, let me help with that." And he grabs her by the face and squeezes it just a teensy bit too hard, popping her head open like a balloon. Cut to the teacup ride, which, might I add, is the absolute worst Disney ride, and a couple are hiding out in the teacups. But then, flying robots kamikaze dive at their heads, also unaliving them, which, to be fair, is probably better than riding the teacups. Next, we jump to a man whose parents never taught him how to look before he crosses the road, and it's revealed that the robot hyping up the crowd was actually hyping up a bunch of dead bodies. Oh, I get it now. It's an Imagine Dragons concert. In the midst of all the chaos, we meet a scientist limping away from some of the robots with blood dripping down his arm. Despite his injury, he manages to plug the USB in on his first try, bullshit, and begins running some sort of code. He yaps to himself about starting over one more time. Right as his aggressors break down the door and he faces his death in the face, he hits the start button and meets the end of his life. The start of the show has been incredibly heavy, and all of this happened in only the first 4 minutes. There has been absolutely no singing so far. This false advertising. Okay, there was like a little bit of something at the start, but this is not what I expected when I first heard about the show at all. We're given some brief backstory on the world of AI, and long story short, these robots were born with one individual purpose each, and tasks that they had to complete from start to finish. These goals could be anything from teaching people the piano or singing. But if the robots had more than one task, it was found that they would fumble around and just mess everything up. Here, we meet Diva, the robot whose job is to make the world smile with her singing. We get an introduction to Diva and meet a kid who's a dedicated fan of hers and decides to call her Vivy instead of Diva. Here we learn that our lovable songstress is having a hard time fulfilling her goal, as most people would rather see Twice instead of the Temu knockoff version. During this, Vivy has a robot seizure and develops robot schizophrenia, and meets the best robot sidekick in history, and no, I do not mean Claptrap. This robot goes by Matsumoto. Well, he's kind of a dick, He was essentially sent back in time to help Vivy prevent the future from happening. How will you do this, you might ask? By defying every time travel rule ever written and attempting to drastically change the outcome of important moments in AI and human history. Fairly enough, Vivy does not believe the robot's telling the truth, and he ends up leading her on a mission to stop a little bit of a terrorist attack. After saving people thanks to his help, this ragtag duo hopefully saved the future. I don't want to explain much more than that, as each part of the story feels like an important journey that you need to embark on. One thing that the show does extremely well is the execution of the exposition. There are times in the story where you don't really know how long has passed in between arcs, and when they finally get around to telling you, you've already witnessed how much things have changed. Matsumoto acts as a guide for both Vivy and us, and while he is, again, a dick, he provides context and alleviates the tension when much needed. When you only see the story told in fragments throughout time, you don't get to see the ramifications of history being altered. Instead, you're given a glimpse on how things were before and how they are now. We need to trust that they're making the right decisions, and that these decisions are having the desired outcome. There's a reason that most shows don't jump around through a timeline as much as Vivy does, and that's because it's incredibly difficult to bring you to care without spending an obscene amount of time on exposition. Despite this, Vivy somehow does just that, and it does it really well. We see the world as Vivy is seeing it. We only get to see the pivotal moments, but based on what's happening, it's easy to tell just how impactful all these moments really are. This show throws out a lot of the typical rules that you find in sci-fi. Hell, it throws out a lot of the rules of most TV shows. They aren't afraid to do or discuss taboo things. Quite often, Vivy is greeted with the hard truth that you can't save everyone, and that some things have to happen, some people need to die. But that's the opposite of what time travel is typically about. In modern media, time travel tends to be about either saving everyone, or on the complete opposite side, not changing anything at all. But Vivy confronts the fact that some of these deaths led to good outcomes, and we can't change that. But other things need to be shifted for a better future. Despite its short 13-episode runtime, Vivy offers a complete story with multiple complete character arcs that tackle different emotions, feelings, and moral issues. It might have been my second time watching the show, but honestly, it is the saddest thing that I have seen this year. Okay, I have been glazing this show a lot, but if the show is so good, then why don't we hear people talk about it more? I've talked about this a lot today, but with how frequently new anime come out, shorter, one-season shows often leave our palates to make room for something new. There are so many high-quality shows every year that it would be impossible to remember all of them. If there isn't more to come or to look forward to in a show, it doesn't really find its way into the discussions as often as we talk about the 78th One Piece season. And as such, these shorter shows have to completely revolutionize anime for us to constantly be bringing them up. Whereas back in the day, with less consistently high-quality shows, it was easier to lament on how something really affected us. In a lot of ways, this is both a gift and a curse. We're given the gift of good anime, but we pay for it by losing our attention spans. Something we pretty commonly see is anime inspired or based on manga. But Vivy was different. As I said, there wasn't a source material when it came out. Instead, the anime is the source material, and the manga and light novel released after the show started airing. While they all released pretty close to one another, it's rare for a show to start and finish before the other mediums do. Vivy is an emotional roller coaster that takes the direction of AI experiencing life and completely flips it around. Early on, the show introduces you to the concept of each robot being born with a single focus as to not overwhelm itself to the point of breaking. Despite this, the characters in the show somehow still adapt and evolve. They deal with love, loss, grief, and some even consider taking their own lives. Despite what limitations you'd expect AI to face, the line is often blurred, and it feels like the AI aren't that much different than we are. Vivy comes to terms with this pretty quickly as she realizes there are things that she doesn't want to do, people that she doesn't want to hurt, but she doesn't really have a choice. She might not be following the job given to her at birth, but a lot of the decisions she has to make aren't really decisions at all. They're necessities. Something that she has to do for the sake of keeping others alive, keeping others happy. Vivy captures multiple emotionally gripping storylines showcasing incredible perspectives across the AI ages, and to say that it kinda hurts you emotionally at times would be underselling it. I can't end this video without talking about the music. The singing aspect is part of why myself, and many others might have skipped over the show originally. The idea of a songstress AI pretending to be a member of Blackpink might be the show for some people, but it's one that I typically would avoid. I think a lot of people read the synopsis for the show and didn't really give it a second chance, which is a mistake that I learned the hard way. I didn't come here for the music, but a lot of the songs have made their way onto my playlist. Some, such as the opening, are incredibly hype, and seeing all the different versions of it intertwined with the storytelling only adds to the emotionality that I felt watching the show. Some of the other songs broke my heart worse than my high school ex-girlfriend, thanks to the scenes accompanying them. The way that I felt watching and listening to these music pieces is the same way that I felt when I first watched my favorite anime, Angel Beats, more than 10 years ago. Jesus fuck, I'm old. We need more anime that isn't afraid of trying something new and different. I genuinely believe that we are in the anime decade, the golden age of anime, and things are only going to continue blowing us away more and more. I hope that animation studios let authors try new things and create stories that they want to share with us. Let's just hope that we get more Vivies and a lot less Wonder Egg priority finales, but we can talk about that disaster another time.